Kentucky. When I look at Kentucky basketball, I think of Alabama football. I think of Duke basketball, Kansas basketball, UCLA basketball, the bluest of bloods. So Georgia, Bama, just teams that I know Georgia's kind of just now winning championships, so maybe you could exclude them from the list. But USC in football, teams like that, programs that are above the cycles of the sport mostly. Now, sometimes you get caught. You see what happened to a school like Nebraska that's won a ton. There's different reasons. But it seems like for Kentucky, as crazy as this tournament has been, what's been the most consistent about Kentucky is disappointing in March and doing less with more than anyone else. How, when you consistently have the best players in the country, do you continue to disappoint? Because I always say it's one of two things, and it's always on the coaches. The buck stops with the coaches. Either one, these players you're recruiting aren't as good as we think they are. And if you look in the NBA, it is littered with Kentucky players. Absolutely littered with them. And the fact that Cal has one natty, because Anthony Davis and that unibrow freaked out, which he's unbelievable now, when he's not hurt. He's basically Mr. Glass from Unbreakable now. It's either the players are that good and you're not developing them, or somehow you do not know how to identify players that can run your system. Either way, it's your fault. If you're Kentucky, though, what do you do?
So are you talking to Blaine or are you talking
I know. I don't know.
No, I'm seeing how confused I can get. Go ahead, David.
Okay. Well, for Kentucky, I mean, it really is. I don't think Kentucky fans disagree with you. That's like to your point earlier, because I've talked to a lot of them. I think they are frustrated. At the same time, I don't think they're ready to fire Coach Calipari. What makes it interesting is it's really a tale of two halves here. 5 out of his first 6 seasons at Kentucky, there was nothing less than an Elite 8. Now you're moving on. Like you said, they, bounced in the second round this year, bounced in the first round the year before that, didn't make the tournament the 2 previous years. One of them was canceled due to COVID. I get that. But they did return the National Player of the Year in Oscar Tshiebwe, and we're not talking about just some guy. He's the highest paid coach in college basketball. So for $8.5 million a year, I think people should be able to expect making Final Fours and winning national championships. But we've just seen this weekend, guys, there's so much parity in college basketball. It is hard to win. Look at what Tom Izzo's been able to do with Michigan State. Overperformed by a lot of, people's estimations this season, but won national championship. Only one. Right, same as Coach Calipari. We look at in Syracuse.
Jim Boeheim.
Jim Boeheim won national championship, just like we were talking about a week before last when he retired. So it is hard to win at the highest level, but if you're going to be the highest paid coach and you're getting all the best talent, then to me you have to be able to piece it together.
Yeah, and Blake, I don't want people to get confused. I'm not saying Kentucky should win the national championship every year in college basketball.
Compete.
That's impossible. I'm not even saying they should make the Final Four every year. But it's one thing to have one down year. Hey, we lost the first round to St. Peter's on a crazy game, whatever. It happens in basketball. But now we're seeing it consecutively. Not only that, you're not winning the SEC. You're not winning the SEC tournament. And if you look up right now, if I'm grading the SEC and looking toward the future, Kentucky's top 5, but they're not 1. I wouldn't project in the next 5 years, honestly. Blaine, right now, where would you, if I told you that another team or 4 other teams would be ahead of Kentucky in the SEC when it comes to pecking order, would that shock you at all?
No, wouldn't be surprised.
Think about that statement, how crazy that statement is. We all grew up watching college basketball. Kentucky was God in the SEC. Every time you played Kentucky, I looked at the calendar as a young Auburn fan, loss. I don't care if it was at Rupp. I don't care if it was at home. But now it's just, hey, just another good-looking girl walking down the street.
Well, if you're a Kentucky fan, when's enough for Cal? Like, what else has to happen?
Jim Harbaugh cut his money? Cut his money?
Sooner or later, if you have to pull that move, because I know a guy walking around in Tuscaloosa, that'd be a great fit.
I don't know if I want that.
Right now, why wouldn't you? He's been to an Elite 8 against UCLA. Right now, if I had to put all my money on one team to win this tournament, Alabama by far looks better than any other team in the NCAA tournament. I truly believe that. But, the amount of 5-star Kentucky gets, I'm talking about, they're compared to Alabama when they were running through people. That's the Kentucky I know. And if you're getting paid this amount of money, and let's not forget about last year, you're a 2 seed.
Yeah.
You're a 2 seed walking into a tournament, and you lose to
You lost to a middle school.
A St. Peter's team. And at the end of the day, and you go back to this Kansas State game, Kansas State didn't play good. They didn't. They were 0 for 12 from 3 in the first half. right? Oscar Tshiebwe, the last 6 minutes of that game, had 2 points. That can't happen. What's that come down to? That's telling me you're not getting your best player the ball down the stretch, and that's coaching. So you're getting paid all this money at Kentucky, which is a perennial powerhouse, one of the blue bloods in college basketball, and you're losing like this year after year. Sooner or later, I mean, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, guess what, guys? It's a flailing duck.
Yeah.
It could always get worse, though. I'll tell Kentucky fans that. You think it's just automatically guaranteed to get better? It can get worse.
The SEC is not slowing down.
No.
That's the scary part.
You make the wrong hire if you moved on, and I don't know if it's going to be a firing situation. I had several Kentucky fans text me over the weekend like, hey, was this Coach Calipari's final game at Kentucky? Just with the idea that maybe he would either move on or step into an administrative role. Like, I don't know the answer to that, but you make the wrong hire next, it can get worse.
Yeah, that's true. Again, we've seen this happen in college sports. You walk into Scott Frost's office, hey man, JG Whitworth, I need my money and I need it now because you're not performing. And again, it goes on who you fire him. That's one circumstance. But then Michigan goes into Jim Harbaugh's office, hey, we need some of this money back. Then all of a sudden he turns into Newt Rockne. So like it can go multiple ways. And again, do I hate John Callipari? No, I don't hate the guy. I don't know the guy. I think he's a great recruiter, but I also know this could recruit 5 stars at Kentucky. All you got to do is take one trip to Rupp and look up in the rafters. I mean, they've been doing this forever. So it's just interesting to see it, but I feel like it's the way college basketball is going with the COVID year, like I brought up, and the transfer portal. We're seeing, who knows? Like we've seen crazy tournaments with upsets. This is on a different level to me because I'm watching the competitive nature and the talent of these teams, and there's not a huge separation between some of these very high seeds and some of these lower seeds when it comes down to being able to put the ball in the basket and play defense. We talk about styles make fights, and it is never more prevalent than it's been in this year's NCAA tournament. But Kentucky, you better shape up. Hey, you two, appreciate you guys stopping in. Do us a favor while you're here. Hit that like button, turn that notification bell on, and subscribe if you haven't. That's the best way for us to keep growing, and we really, really appreciate it.